This is Kendrick Scott. Welcome to Time Connect.
Hey, Kendrick Scott. Hey, man, thank you so much for taking the time to connect. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, John. Appreciate it.
You bet. A lot I want to talk about. I definitely want to talk about your record, "A Wall Becomes a Bridge." I love this record. It's a really fantastic record from a lot of different reasons, and let's talk about that. But before we do, if we can, let's back up and do a little bit of personal kind of history for those of you folks watching this who don't know you. You are from Houston, Texas, is that right?
Yes, sir. From Houston, Texas. That's my home. Went to high school there, finished through high school, and then I moved up to Boston, and I've been in New York ever since.
Yeah, I wondered that. By the way, I'm coming to you from College Station, just up the road from Houston.
All right, beautiful.
I taught at Texas A&M for many years and recently retired. And I'm guessing you still have some family in Houston?
Absolutely. My niece graduated from A&M, so
Oh, cool.
yeah, all my family's still there in Houston.
And you get down very often?
I do about 3 or 4 times a year.
Beautiful. And so you went to Berklee in Boston to study music. Did you pretty much just move to New York from there?
Right to New York from
Yeah.
Boston. My parents were very happy. I got a call while I was in my cap and gown to play with Terence Blanchard.
Uh,
And before
Welcome to
that,
New York.
yeah, and before that, I got a call to play with Joe Sample. So I had gigs lined up. It was a blessing.
Yeah, congratulations. That's fantastic. And what a resume. I want to talk about that in a minute, but I do have to ask you one thing, if you don't mind. I've heard you talk about your first drum kit. Can you tell that story real quickly?
Oh yeah, my first drum kit was probably my best drum kit because it was you know, what is it? Necessity is the mother of invention. I had my jack-o'-lantern from when I was a kid, and I was always looking at it and always kind of beating on it. So I took that and I turned that around. I had that in between my legs, and I was like beating on it one day, and I was like, oh, let me not make too much noise for my mom. So I went in my closet in my bedroom, and then I started making up this drum kit, like this world that I would go into when I would go in there. And so I made that my snare drum, and then I took some shoe boxes. I made those the toms, and then I got some of my parents' LPs. They weren't really pleased with that, but I used those as symbols. I kind of hung them from the rack, and
Yeah.
I took some hangers with the I took some pan hangers, and I took the I don't even want this
Little
even
cardboard
called.
roll thing
Yeah,
from
I
it.
took the
Yep.
cardboard off. Yeah, and I used those as drumsticks, and that was my first drum kit. And one day, my parents came in and found me, and they were like, "What are you doing?" They were cool, but they were also like the records. I don't know if I ever broke one, but it was just
Yeah.
wasn't cool to have the records up there like that. But that was my first kit.
That's
That's
amazing.
when
How old were you at that time?
I was probably 6 years old.
Yeah.
So that's when they got me a drum pad.
Yeah.
That's when they were like, okay, let's get them a drum pad. And then 2 years later, they got me a kit.
Were they musicians?
Yeah, my mom is a pianist, and my
Okay.
father played trombone and does sound reinforcement.
And I know you've said you got a lot of your early musical training and inspiration from the church. Was there a time, Kendrick, when you kind of figured out this is going to be your life, this is music is going to be it, or did it just kind of evolve, or was there any question early on? Did you think about doing other things?
Yeah, it. I was naive enough to believe that's what I was supposed to do, and it was a blessing because I had a mother who was a musician, and a lot of her friends were musicians. So I never really thought about doing anything else. And to this day, I still haven't had like what people call a job.
Hmm.
If anything, I say I get paid to travel, and the music is free. You know, yeah, it's been a blessing. And by the time I made it to my high school, which is when I started playing jazz, I went to the Performing Arts High School in Houston. And by the time I made it there, I was surrounded by so many people who were just doing great things. And also, my big brother in music is Eric Harland. And I saw him doing the things that I wanted to do. And I said, well, if he's doing it, I might as well just do that. It just became a normal thing.
So it was jazz early on for you. Were there other types of music you were listening to as a kid, or was it always going to be jazz?
Oh, yeah. I mean, jazz is what stuck out to me as far as what I wanted to play and what I wanted to do. But pretty much all the music was in my in my household. My mother went to North Texas for classical piano, so we had classical music, we had gospel music. My dad was into R&B, soul. Yeah, we had everything pretty much around the house. So I just gravitated to jazz. They had a couple of Ramsey Lewis records and some Joe Sample records, and I would just go in there and kind of listen to those. Like, oh, okay. You know, then they had some Benson in there. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. You know, it just kind of piqued my curiosity. And yeah, I don't know. It just kind of all fell into place when I went to the high school.
Yeah, that's great, man. Do you have any idea the years your mom was at North Texas?
Ooh, I don't remember.
Okay. I just wondered if I was there. I was there in the early 70s, but that would have been just a coincidence. So who are some of your drum heroes? Who are some of the people who, you know, really inspired you early on? You know, the big names like Blakey and Elvin and those guys, are they the ones who inspired you?
Well, my first big drum heroes were like my hometown guys, Eric Harland and Chris Dave and Mark Simmons and all of those guys. Those were the ones that I got to see very early on. And then once I started getting into jazz, definitely Tony Williams was a big one. Grady Tate. And I guess, you know, now that I just got to see one 3 times within the past week, the great Al Foster, still with us. And also the great Roy Haynes is still with us. I've been very blessed to be able to see my heroes that have changed my life and that are still with us. So, I mean, that's just a small list, but I mean, all of the foundational cats, Papa Joe Jones, Philly Joe, you know, Otis Candy Finch and Shadow Wilson, all of those drummers.
Yeah, right on. And how about contemporary drummers? Who do you admire that's playing today? Younger people.
Of the younger cats, I mean, Marcus Gilmore. I guess, Mark is definitely younger than me.
How old are you?
I'm 42 now, so Marcus is, I don't know if he's even 30. He's probably 30 by now.
Yeah.
He should be 30. But yeah, he's always been a really musical, always thought a different way. And you can see the lineage in his playing. You can hear the lineage in his playing and see that he's taking it in a different place. I just love that.
Yeah.
I love his heart and his thought process. Let's see, who else? Many other players younger than me. I guess Jonathan Barber. I like Jonathan Barber a lot.
Kwaku?
Huh?
Kwaku?
Absolutely. Kwaku is incredible. Yeah. There's a lot of them out here.
There's a lot of young people. It's for those of us who are jazz fans, it's encouraging to see how many great young players there are. And man, we got a couple of them in Emmanuel Wilkins' band right there, that young kids who are just tearing it up. And
absolutely.
And what's that guy from Dallas? Young JD.
Drummer?
Yeah. Just a kid, man. If he's out of his teens, he's barely out of his teens, and he's
JD Beck.
Yeah, that guy's amazing. Yeah. It's encouraging. Well, look, you've played with such an impressive list of artists. I mean, I wrote down a couple of them: Jazz Crusaders, Pat Metheny, Charles Lloyd, Bill Frisell, Gerald Clayton, Joe Lovano, Terence Blanchard, and then Herbie and Wayne. I mean, you can't get any bigger than that in terms of living legends. And that Blue Note, Beyond the Notes film where you we see you playing with those two guys. Is that the first time you played with them? The only time you played with them?
No, I played with Herbie. I guess in 2006 was the first time I played with Herbie, and it was he produced Terrence's record called Flow.
Gotcha.
And so he played on my song on the record. That was such an honor for
Wow.
him to play. And his solo got nominated for a Grammy. And that was really cool. And then the next time I played with him was on his tour. Actually, we did a tour, a 3-month tour in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, with Wayne, I only got to play with Wayne a few times. I played with Wayne in Paris with Gretchen Parlato. That was just, all of us were floored when we played with Wayne, and also that time there at the set.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. You've played with so many people. Who's someone? One of the questions I like to ask my guests, especially people like yourself who have such an impressive resume, who's someone you've not played with, who's playing today that you'd like to play with?
Oh, Stevie Wonder.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that's Stevie is the bridge between everything for me.
Yeah.
Stevie Wonder, Milton Nascimento. I'm going to see Milton in next month.
Nice.
Milton Nascimento is like really like one of those people. Joni Mitchell, one of those people. You know what I mean? There are a few. There's
yeah.
A lot of cats.
Okay, here's a really tough question, similar to that. Now you can bring anybody back from the dead who and you can play with them. Who's that going to be? Now you could Bird, Miles, anybody. If you only get one, who are you going to bring back to play with?
Who am I going to bring back?
You get to play with them for a couple of hours, and that's it.
A couple of hours. Wow. Maybe I'll choose Miles. He would be brutally honest, and I think I would like that.
Yeah, he would. That's true. if you get any words out of him, I kind of thought you might say Train, just because if I'm not mistaken, I think I heard you say the Blue Train record is one of the reasons you wanted to be a musician.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Coltrane is that's my spiritual compass right there.
Yeah.
It's funny, Miles and Coltrane are so closely associated, because I feel like they encompass so much of the music, so much of the heart and the intellect of the music. You know what I mean? So yeah, it would be one or the other, I guess.
Or maybe both. Then maybe you could cheat and just say, I'm bringing them both back, man.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your record, A Wall Becomes a Bridge. It's just such a beautiful record, really brilliant record. I really enjoy the dynamics on this thing. You've got really great players. You've got the spoken word thing going on there. You got the turntable going on. You got terrific melodies. And I've read somewhere that you were kind of experiencing some writer's block or having some issues with your creativity, and that this record was a real breakthrough for you. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you kind of have to start seeing the worst part as the end instead of contemplating, I got to go through this journey where the wall falls down and it becomes the bridge. I mean, the project is about just accepting what's going on in the moment, that acceptance, and then pretty much reverse engineering your dreams and what's going on. So if you see the tunes on the record, you'll see that the tunes themselves, they have these little arrows and then they come to a head. Yeah. That's a visual representation of the wall and the bridge. And I mean, I'm always beating myself up, no matter how good or bad I am. I'm trying to always keep that balance. It's something that I've been fighting with my whole life. Just keeping a certain amount of balance, and pretty much this was a mantra that I had that I came up with, you know, a wall becomes a bridge, a wall becomes a bridge, to really get myself in the mindset of you know, in church they say, you know that God is already taking care of it before it starts. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's pretty much that type of thing.
Yeah. Right on. By the way, as a professor for many years, I worked with a lot of students who were highly motivated, and a lot of them beat themselves up too. And I used to like to uh, quote Steve Jobs' meditation teacher, who
Hmm.
once looked out at his students and he said, "Each of you is perfect, just as you are,
Hmm.
and you could use a lot of improvement." So, you know, it's really not contradictory. It sounds like it is at first, but man, my God, you know, you've had such an amazing career and so much to celebrate. Uh, the beating yourself up, I'm sure, is a way to motivate yourself. But I hope you also take the time to just appreciate and to be happy with all the beautiful things you've done.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I do. I
Good,
do.
good, good. Now, coming out in 2019 with the word wall in the title, it has to be political. Uh, and one of the things I wanted to ask you about, you know, a lot of times, you know, there's overt political music, and then there's music that is just unavoidably political, almost because of the time when it was coming out. And I think of, you know, of a lot of Art Blakey stuff, for example. It really was political in a way because of the times that they were living in. Are we back to that, man? Are we back because of some of the crazy stuff we're dealing with politically in this world now? Are we back to the point where you almost it's almost inescapable that there's going to be some political element to the music you make?
Well, there was a great video of Nina Simone, and I think she just said, you know, an artist that's not reflecting their times now is just not an artist, or something like that. She said,
Uh-huh.
and I just feel like pretty much artists have been doing this the whole time. I feel like now we just have phones and things to record things. I mean, all this stuff has been happening. There's nothing new, really. So I feel like I call myself a temperate radical. You know, I like to um, put the question out there and make
Hmm.
people face things, but without, you know, I'm not an orator or a
Hmm.
an activist in
Hmm.
that type of way. You know, I just like to create the art and let people ruminate on that art.
Yeah.
And like you said, having a wall in the title is kind of like, wait, what are we talking? Oh,
Hmm.
oh, oh, and it just makes you think and it makes you ruminate, and that's all I want. I feel like that's what art is supposed to do. That's why I named my band Oracle.
Right.
It's more to raise questions than it is to give answers.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's very wise. And but you also, while you're not making maybe an overt political statement, you're also saying something optimistic too by also including the word bridge in that title. And
Absolutely.
I get that feeling too that and I may have read some of this as well with other interviews you've done or things I've read online that you basically are trying to see turn this a lot of this negativity around and seeing the positive in it. And thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the thing that hopefully will heal all. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 So what are you working on now? What's current projects?
We just finished a trio record. Coming out of pandemic, I'm here in my apartment, and I was here during the whole time. And it's kind of a creepy little apartment. It's really big and it has this long hallway. And when you walk down the hallway, it's 100-year-old place. So you walk down the hallway and the wood is creaking.
Ah,
So I named the apartment Corridors because I was
okay.
thinking about how did we all live during this time? I don't have a family of my own, but I was thinking about some of my friends who had their kids home, and their kids' room turned into the school room, and the garage turned into the gym, and you know what I mean. All of these spaces that we usually have that are more transitory became like the only places we were in. So I wanted to uh, ruminate on that, and also on what have we had taken away. What have we had taken away during this time? And so orally, what I wanted to do was have you know, my band usually has piano and guitar.
Guitar, yeah.
So you know what? I was like, I'm gonna take away the piano and the guitar and think about that as travel for me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like travel is such a huge part of my life. You know, I love living in New York, but if you don't get out of New York, you go crazy. At least I do. And so, you know, when that part of my life went away, it was really rough for me.
Mhm.
And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to take those two instruments away. And then, so we just recorded me, Walter Smith, and Ruben Rogers, and we have a new record called Corridors coming out at
Nice.
the beginning of next year.
And Blue Note putting that out?
Yep.
Yeah, that's great, man. So that'll be your third record as a leader with Blue Note, is that right?
That's my third on Blue Note. Yeah, and I think my sixth or seventh. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Total.
How did the Blue Note thing happen? You know, I'm pretty, like a lot of people, I'm pretty enamored with the whole Blue Note thing, and the, especially, you know, the now that Dawn is involved, and it's just it's so vibrant right now. And uh how did that come about, that you ended up in the Blue Note All Stars, and how did that association with Blue Note come about?
Well, you know, it's really crazy. I met Bruce Lunvar when I was 17 years old, and I got a scholarship to attend the Skidmore Jazz Camp,
Okay.
and Blue Note paid for that. And so that was the first time I ever traveled with my drum set. I remember I flew up to Saratoga Springs, and I had my drum set with me, and I came to the camp for 2 weeks, and there was Bruce Lunvar, like, "Hi, how you doing? Nice to meet you," you know. And so that's how my relationship with Blue Note started, just meeting Bruce then, and then I guess, wow, that was '97. So in 1999, that's when I was around Terence more. Yeah, because that's when I came up to Boston. Then I started hanging around Terence, and Eric Harlan was in the band. That's my big brother. So by the time 2003 rolled around, I joined Terence's band after Eric moved on to other things. And then Bruce was still around then, still hanging in there. And then, you know, within the years, shoot, I don't know my years that well now, but as Bruce started to wind down and Don came in, you know, we kept that relationship going. And so oof, I'm really bad with these dates, man.
Oh, that's okay.
I think it's by 17. I think 17 is when I did my first record.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Don was so gracious to, you know, include me. You know, I didn't get signed by Bruce, but you know, Don kept his eye out for me, and we started this band up, the kind of all-star band that we did that record with. We did that a little some years ago. We played in Martha's Vineyard, and we were all kind of looking around like, man, we should actually record this.
Yeah.
And Don was like, yeah, let's do that.
Uh-huh.
And it coincided with them doing the Beyond the Notes documentary. So they said, you know, and we're gonna get Herbie and Wayne to play with you guys. We were like,
I'm
yeah,
in.
I think I think that's
Yeah.
I think that's all right, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's see. A couple more questions here. What are you listening to right now? What, maybe something that on your turntable these days?
Yeah. I just picked up I just started listening to Joshua Redman's new record that they put out. What's it called? Long Gone?
It
Yeah.
literally came in the mail right before we got online.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, those are like, you know, I'm a child of the 80s and the early 90s, so that was like really special for me, those records that they made together.
Yeah.
So I've always been chasing that feeling that Blade creates
Yeah.
in the music.
Yeah.
So I've been checking that out. Also, I've been listening to some really listening to Walter Smith's record right now. He just recorded his first record for Blue Note, actually.
Mm.
So we've been listening to a lot of mixes for him,
Okay.
and that's been taking up a lot of my mental space, just helping him mix his music. And let me see what else I've been listening to. Really, those two things have been occupying my space. I try not to listen to too much at once. Really, I
Yeah.
can only do a little bit because I actually have to have free um, free time,
Sure.
especially when I'm writing. Right now, I'm writing some music for SF Jazz, the SF Jazz Collective. So between those things, I'm not really listening to anything else.
Okay. So you've played a lot of amazing stages. What, if you had to say your favorite venue?
Ooh. Oh man, wow, my favorite venue.
We don't have to hold it to like this is your all-time favorite, but just what comes to mind when you think about great
Yeah,
venues that you played.
I mean, well, I mean, the greatest venue with the greatest history is the Village Vanguard.
Yeah,
You know,
that's what I thought you'd say. Yeah,
when you sit on that stage, I mean, I just saw Al Foster there a couple of days ago. When you
yeah,
sit on that stage, you feel it.
yeah,
You feel everybody that's been in that place and everybody that's played there. And it's crazy because that it's the very jazz musician thing to say because it's the smallest place, one of the smallest places in the world. You would think I would say a stadium or something that
right,
I've played before.
right.
But really, it's that. It's the intimacy of that. It's also being able to play there night after night and let the band develop, challenging yourself to come up with something new.
Yeah,
That's every day, but especially every set at the Vanguard. And you feel the spirits behind you,
yeah,
like nah, you know,
yeah,
and it's just a blessing. That one is a real um, memorable one for me every time that I get to be there.
absolutely. Yeah. Kendrick, what pisses you off?
You know what pisses me off? Probably people who are unempathetic,
Hmm.
people who are not open to their truth
Hmm.
changing
Hmm.
and growing. That's probably about it. I mean, a lot of things that I see are just that piss me off are about that. You know,
Hmm. Hmm.
sometimes you could chalk it up to naivete. You know,
Sure. Yeah.
but when it's so blatant and outright,
Hmm.
that's not the thing that I like to see.
As wise as it is to stop and say, you know, they're behaving that way because obviously they're hurt or they're insecure or it's sure hard to do. It's
Yeah.
sure hard to do. Well, do you have any practices to deal with the slings and arrows of life? Do you meditate, prayer, the music itself? What do you do to when you know you feel the weight of the world on you? Do you have any kind of particular practice to help you get back to your center?
Well, to me, the practice of playing music gets me closest to myself than I can ever be, and I guess that's why I keep coming back to music, and I
Mm-hmm.
can't ever put it down. Literally, if you ask me to sit here and meditate, I probably could. It would take me a little while to get my mind to a place
Mm-hmm.
where I could just watch everything. But
Mm-hmm.
literally, when I'm playing the music, it takes me to that place immediately, and so that's actually the drug that I love to take. You know what I mean? To
Mm-hmm.
just kind
Mm-hmm.
of sit down and play drums. It relaxes me. Um, it fills me spiritually, and through that, I take that feeling out into the world and try to do the same thing, those two things for other people while I'm playing the music. So that to me is like a meditation in itself.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. In fact, when you're really in it, when you're really playing, do you do you experience that sort of loss of self where you sort of become you almost lose the sense of being a separate being and you're just part of the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. The way I think of it, I think of the drums being the car and I'm the instrument,
Hmm.
and then after a while, I become the car
Yeah,
and God is the instrument. You know what
yeah,
I mean? It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
once you like you said, you're leaving yourself
Uh-huh.
and once you leave yourself behind, which is pretty much your ego, which isn't good or bad, but it's
That's
just
right.
there, it's just telling you what to do, and you just surrender to the music, and it's very rewarding. It's very rewarding spiritually to be able to let go and to be open and to be vulnerable. You know, taking off the armor of those other things that you would want to do. You know, once that armor is gone, it's really, really rewarding. So yeah, it's pretty much my armor falls off a lot faster when I'm playing music than I do when I'm trying to sit here and meditate.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What might surprise people about you? And I just got to tell you, I don't know if you saw the episode. I talked to Jonathan Blake recently, and when I asked that question, he had an amazing answer. He told me, he said, "Well, I don't know if I'll surprise people, but most people don't realize or don't know. One thing they don't know about me is that I played violin on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood when I was 6 years old."
Oh yeah, his dad. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you don't have to, you don't have to top that or anything, but what might surprise people about you?
Ooh. Well, I played with Jonathan Blake's dad.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah,
Right on. Yeah.
I played with his dad before. But what would surprise people? Wow. I don't know. Ooh. What would surprise people? I'm a pretty regular. I'm a pretty regular random dude. I don't know if you'd be surprised by anything.
I'm not sure you're so regular.
uh,
I mean, man, come on.
I'm sorry, man. I'm trying to
It's all
think.
right. It's okay if
No,
nothing comes to mind.
nothing comes to mind. Really.
You're pretty open book with people who know you. You don't even the people who know you might. There's nothing that they would say, "Oh, wow, I didn't know that about him."
Oh. Um,
Like maybe a guilty pleasure or some kind of music like you secretly listen to some country music or something,
oh,
anything like that.
that might be.
Yeah.
Uh, no, actually,
Okay.
everything's pretty much an open in that one.
Okay, right on. Well, you have a lot to be proud of. Is there anything in particular that comes to mind if I asked you what are you most proud of?
uh, right now, I'm most proud of probably um, that I've gotten the opportunity to teach what I've learned so far,
Yeah.
and in doing that, it's been a blessing to like pass on the knowledge that I have,
Hmm.
as well as gain more knowledge.
Yeah.
Teaching these students because they probably know more than me most of the time, and as I'm getting to learn more, it's also fueling my intensity for getting better.
Yeah.
So that's probably been a really great thing in teaching. That's probably my most proud point. When they play well, when they're
Yeah.
sucking, when they don't sound good, then
Yeah.
I'm not happy.
You feel
But
that too. All right, Kendrick, I got two more questions for you. I got some big ones here. These are the two big questions I always ask my guests. Um, we're really going out there with this first one. What do you think happens when we die? Do you have a concept? Do you have a philosophy? Do you have a feeling? What do you suppose happens?
mm, that's a hard one. You know,
Hmm.
in my upbringing, we were taught heaven and hell. You know, but I don't know. I feel like we're eternal beings in some way that will always be around in some capacity. Um, but I really don't know. I guess
Okay.
that's to me. I guess it's weird for me because I kind of heaven and hell is kind of weird for me because I think of them here on earth now. I don't look to the sky or look to the ground.
Hmm.
You know, I could be in hell right now or I could be in heaven right now, no matter. I have to kind of get my mental space to be in that. You know what I mean? And so, as I'm seeking that here on earth, hopefully that is eternal.
Yeah.
That is the heaven. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even when the body goes away.
And are you okay with not knowing? You said we don't really. Of course, we can't really know. Are you okay with not knowing?
I'm a jazz musician.
Yes. Amen. What a great answer. Okay. Okay. That's fantastic. Last question, Kendrick. When you are dead and gone, what do you hope people say about you?
Probably I asked the question, what could I give instead of what could I get? You know,
yeah,
that would be something that every day I get up and just make sure that I'm giving more than I receive. And
great,
yeah.
Yeah, I believe it was Winston Churchill who said, "We make a life by what we get, but we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give."
Mm.
Yeah,
there it is. That's beautiful.
Kendrick Scott, man, thank you so much for taking the time to connect. I really appreciate it. You know, I hope our paths cross again sometime. I was in New York recently for some shows, and I'm going back in November. I'll definitely be on the lookout for any opportunity to see you, and if I do, I'll say hi to you.
All right, appreciate you.
Thanks, man. Take care.
All right, thank you. Bye bye.